And likewise.
And I'll give you a little summary here. You're not seeking another term, and tell me the reason behind that, and also tell me what is your. I think we talked about this I was here a month or whatever it was ago. But some of your major accomplishments you feel that you accomplished during your time here as a county judge, in the county, and what's your plans for? I guess you call this retirement, can you?
Yeah, such as it is.
Kind
Uh,
of.
yeah. Well, I don't know if retirement plans are concrete yet. And I've got to get my wife to kind of shave down the tablet of the to-do list that has accumulated
I
over the
remember.
last.
I remember when my grandfather retired. He said he was retired from his job, but he didn't officially retire. He just went to work back at another place.
Well, that's right. Right. Yeah. Looking back, 2008, 9, um, DeWitt County really had a lot of activity in the clerk's office with landmen leasing up mineral rights in the western part of the county, um, not under the cover of darkness, but certainly in secrecy, because that's just the nature of the business, not to try to give up any proprietary gains that their people they're working on are trying to do to lease up land when in front of a major oil play. And what turned out to be was that the oil and gas industry was leaving the Dallas Fort Worth area where the Barnett Shale was being exploited and leasing up here because there are very significant shale formation beneath DeWitt County and Karnes and all the way over to the Rio Grande River near Laredo. And, at the time I was a private citizen, but for 30 years as a private citizen working in through the political party and just other connections around the county, I was a frequent visitor to the commissioner's court, outsider looking in. And Victoria Advocate even one time gave me a title of taxpayer watchdog. I found that fond and kept over the years, and actually used it in my original advertising when I ran for county judge in 2010. But really, where it came about was that I felt like the county was very ill prepared for what was coming, and I didn't have any personal experience living here with uh, an oil play, but my family history is up in the Cleburne area, which was ground central for not Eagle Ford Shale, but Barnett Shale. Aunts and uncles and cousins were telling me about the bombardment of the roads and the traffic and the things that they were going through up there, and put two and two together and determined that wave was coming here.
Isn't it fun? I'm sorry to interrupt. I apologize. But it's funny to me that the traffic and the people moving in hadn't changed since like the early 1900s when the oil was first found in Texas, pretty much. It's still that same scenario still plays out even this far in time.
Well, they find a new one and move to it,
And
and
it's still that way.
yeah, that is exactly right. Still that way, and and that brings its own set of problems as well, because what we've learned is that the the presence of oil and gas industry exploiting a formation like that is not only a blessing, but it is a curse. It takes its heavy toll on your infrastructure, puts money back in the hands of families and philanthropists and all kinds of things. You can just look around town here and see the major monetary benefits. But we have, at the time I came into office, running on a platform that we needed to get the county ready for this onslaught. Things were going to change. We were going to be living in a new paradigm, and we just weren't prepared. Biggest evidence of that was we had a county budget that was a total of $12 million to run everything: courts, jails, administration, and roads.
That sounds like a lot of money. Would that be stretching it thin for all those?
$12.5 million for everything, and the road budget among the four precinct commissioners and 690 miles of roads was only $2.5 million. We hired engineers as I worked on and adopted the first budget in 2011. Hired engineers to study what was coming and to help us quantify what our needs were. And they came back in this report, which is on our website for anybody to see, that 342 of our total road miles were impacted at that time already daily. That we had over 1,000 major trucks hauling in limestone or hauling out oil or moving rigs every day in this county with this activity, and taking a huge toll on our very fragile county roads that were only about this thick of gravel. Uh, the outcome of it was that they quantified our need and said that during the development of this Eagle Ford Shale and through its conclusion, we might have a need. We could use up to $400 million to pour back into the road system and build a road system that not only would accommodate our passenger traffic and meet our safety needs for school buses and first responders, but meet the needs of the industry. And that meant going out and finding these roads and building them up to 12, 15, and 18 inches thick, which was a huge monetary ask. We didn't have that in our budget, did not have it in our treasury, and I knew we were not going to get there with just a property tax alone. So, subsequent to adopting that budget and paying for that and receiving that information, I was asked to serve on a task force for the Railroad Commission in the Eagle Ford Shale to try, at least under Commissioner Porter's uh, mission, to try not and repeat the same errors that occurred in the Barnett Shale. They wanted to attack this and make provision for schools and hospitals and first responders and other things to help the communities in a way that they didn't the decade before. And I was pleased to serve on that committee. And then as things moved on and we began to have outcries about our deteriorating road conditions, I was asked to serve on a TxDOT task force for pretty much the same purpose: ascertain what the needs were and help the legislature, so to speak, at the time come up with some solutions. And thankfully, the reports that were generated by those two uh, task forces were heard in the legislature, and the legislature worked with me, a team of other county judges in the Eagle Ford Shale, and working through a consulting firm that we had hired to be boots on the ground for us and set up opportunities for us to visit with individual legislators and key state leaders and uh, other affinity groups. We were able to find a sponsor for some legislation that created a state grant program for counties in the first bill that we were able to get through the legislature. And it was a very heavy haul. Never in the history of the state of Texas had the state of Texas taken an appropriation out of the general fund and moved it back into counties for this purpose, for rebuilding roads or helping with road maintenance that had was in great need. And the first go round, we got the state to put $225 million in the budget. It was diluted away from heavy energy sector counties as we had first intended to include all counties statewide, but that's the nature of the beast in Austin. Everybody that's up there representing their community feels like their community deserves a piece of the pie, and we were happy to get it. But that particular uh, grant allowed us $4.9 million state funded to come back in here and began to prosecute what we felt was the great need, building these roads to meet the industry needs. It made sense for us because the more oil and gas that's pumped out of here, the more revenue goes into the state treasury, and the more money potentially coming back to the ranching families and other interest here for their needs, support our local retail businesses and so forth. So it was a good fit all the way around. And we began to really work hard on that. Our county tax base, the appraised values doubled and doubled again in my first term in office. So that by the end of my first term in office, we had gone from 1 billion to $5 billion in value, and it has seen whipsawing back and forth like most oil and gas heavy county budgets or school budgets because of the value of oil and gas in the ground changes annually, monthly, and the drilling activity uh, waxes and wanes, and so you have this volatile part of your tax base that you have to learn to budget around.
Boom, sometimes bust.
That's right. And so the subsequent mission, after figuring out how to get new revenue sources in here to help us perpetuate this, the next mission in the second term of office was to find a way to prepare us for a soft landing in the event the oil field crash. We wanted to make sure we had enough revenue, uh, not revenue, but reserves sitting in investment accounts to pay for the infrastructure plans that we already had on the books. It's a political sin, if you can believe this, to begin reconstruction of the road out in the county and stop at the wrong mailbox.
Oh,
So you want to make sure you finish the road, and that was the purpose of keeping money in the bank, and we still have. You wave at the okay. So we still have a significant number of dollars in our reserve that'll be there in place for my successor in office, and hopefully they'll have the same objectives, and that will be to work into a soft landing whenever the Eagle Ford Shale uh, last well is drilled. Conoco, which is our largest taxpayer in the county, has about 1/3 of all the mineral values in the county now because of the acquisitions they've made over the last decade. In a meeting we had earlier in 2025 discussing their capital expenditures going forward, I'm always good to ask them how much longer, how many more years of drilling do you have in place because I'm looking forward. And consistently over the last decade, they'd say, well, we've got 10 more years of drilling plan, 10 more years of drilling plan, 10 more years of drilling plan. And then this last meeting, after they acquired Devon Energy's assets down here, the meeting uh, held by Conoco at their headquarters, the answer to the question was we now believe we have 18 years worth of continuous drilling activity available to us, not just because of the acquisition, but because the nature of the beast has changed. Having a decade now behind them and experience of drilling and fracking and refracking now that's going on, They believe that their technology and their expertise has fixed it so that they can confidently say they've extended the life of this field 18
Go where they weren't able to go in the past.
years. Yeah. Initially, in the early days, we were told that um, the wells that they were drilling would go down about 5,000 feet to 8,000 feet and then hit a horizontal plane and then drill out about a mile. And then in the last couple of years, we're learning that they're still in that target depth, but the length of those lateral and horizontal lines is now extending out 12, 15, 16,000 feet. So they're exploiting a whole lot more with fewer rig moves to do that. But the trade off there is that instead of 4 million pounds of frac sand rolling down a county road to get to the location where that rig and that well needs to be fracked, those longer lateral links now require 20 million pounds of frac sand. So, I'm not a scientist or an engineer, but in the dealings that I've had with TxDOT and others that understand the formulas about equivalent weights of motor vehicles and rigs and so forth, we're talking multiple million car, passenger car equivalents traveling down a county road to frack a well,
Yes.
which means we're never going to get away from road damage and road repair issues. And that's very significant because early on, where we had the help from the state of Texas in this bill, this original bill in 2013, and a grant of money back to us, and a subsequent grant in 2019 of $250 million. We asked for another $250 million in the session that started in January, and we got zero.
Oh,
They did not listen to us or said that there were higher priorities. I don't really understand the communication between state representatives
nothing
and
was
county.
said.
Sir,
Nothing was said. No excuse given. Or
well, crickets mostly.
okay, that yeah.
There, you may not be following it, but I am following it very closely. There is a wedge, a political wedge in between local governments and the state legislators right now, where my legislative activity and my ability to hire a government consultant to to be my boots on the ground when I have a court docket here and can't get away. That wedge is a wedge that says counties should be prohibited from hiring people like that to represent themselves as lobbyists in Austin. And that's really unfortunate because that's a great need here. I cannot run away from the duties. Look at my desk.
I see.
I cannot run away from these duties because there's no rubber stamp for a county judge. If I go up there and spend 24 hours and wait to testify for a hearing or knock on half a dozen doors, my work is still here when I get back. And the fear that I have if the legislature is successful with this ban on using taxpayer funds to hire lobbyists makes it into law. If I'm not up there and able or using a collective voice to convey my message, if I'm not there, that just leaves the oil and gas industry lobbyist in place, with an open door into the state legislators' offices, or I don't want to pick a bogey bear, but every industry in the state of Texas has a lobbying group or internal people that knock on those doors and ask those legislatures to file bills for them. 10,000 bills were filed in this last session. 1,000 bills had had language in there that referenced the Texas tax code. And it's impossible for me as a sitting county judge in a rural county like this with all these other responsibilities to go up there and read through them or even sit here and read through them and try to interpret what they mean and how they impact us. So anyway, that's a sidebar discussion. But getting back to my main point, the legislature did not fund our request, so we're out here now trying to figure out with this continuation of the Eagle Ford Shale expected into the next 18 years, how in the world are we going to pay for the damages? And we do have another source of revenue, which was a bill that I was able to get passed back in 2015 that created a revenue stream back to the county that was unfortunately denied us for 55 years previously under an attorney general's opinion. And that revenue now amounts to about $3 million that we can use toward our road and bridge construction, and it comes straight from the revenue generated by the oil and gas lease under our county roads. Up until I fought for it and was able to get the bill passed and signed into law, the state was keeping as much as $3 million a year that was income that the county certainly could have used because it was our land under the pavement. But the state said we could not lease it. The state would lease it, and the state kept the money. But that's now returned to us more than $15 million to work, almost one full year's worth of county road and bridge budget to us since it became law, and we were eligible for the first payment in September of 2017. So we're still working on that. I have another legislative initiative that likely will go unsolved because my term will end before the next legislative session, regular session starts up in 2027. But there is an inequity in the way that appraised values hit the tax roll, and not to get into the weeds on this, but you know the state formulas for taxation is a big deal. And I'm a taxpayer like anybody else, and I want lower taxes where I can get them. But the tax mechanism up there is a formula that says as your tax base grows, your tax rate should shrink so that you achieve flatline revenue growth. All right, the state policy really is that they don't want to see more revenue in the hands of counties, even if we have more expenses. We're supposed to survive on what we had last year, or if we need more than 3.5% new revenue, we are to call a special election and take it to the voters in the county in November at the expense of $10,000, which is fine. It's what it costs to run an election around here. But rather than, and this is how we've achieved so much, how we've made $200 million worth of investment here, is with a tax base at $1 billion when I came into office, and now roughly 10 billion. My tax rate should be 1/10 of what it was when I came into office. It should be somewhere down 6 pennies per $100 worth of value, according to that formula. But we would have cattle trails out in our rural roads. We would have sheriff vehicles with front ends that need alignment and realignment
Yes.
every month, or probably falling out from underneath them, and other ills that would complicate our ability to serve the public with those statutory things that we're charged with. Um, but we've been able to navigate through that. Our tax rate now is at 36 pennies. And under the new state formula, this all came about 2 years ago, that tax rate is 11 pennies lower than what it was 2 years ago. So as oil and gas is increasing and causing more damages, we're having to lower our tax rate,
Mm-hmm.
which is really, in the mind of somebody that deals with this daily, an abatement to the industry. And they're actually causing the lion's share of the need to repair. I don't necessarily think that's fair or equitable. And that's been my argument with the legislature for 14 years. But I don't get a hearing on that much because nobody wants to be accused of raising taxes on their constituents. It might be the right thing to do, but there's not a legislator up there that wants to have that label as a tax raiser.
True, true.
Right?
What's your once your term is complete, what's your plans from then on?
Well,
What you are hoping it would be?
I what I hope to be is be able to spend some time with my wife. That uh, because this is such an all-encompassing job.
Yeah, it's not 9 to 5 Monday through Friday.
It is not 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. You're always on call for an emergency. You're
Yeah.
an expanding incident, and so that limits your time out of county, out of state, and we have uh, denied ourselves extended vacations because of that. And I, I have a desire to go see some places and experience some things that
Exactly. Go enjoy life.
enjoy life before I can't.
Yes.
Not that that's anytime soon. All of my doctors say I'm in good health, and so with that time remaining, I just want to enjoy it. And children grown now, and my wife and grandchildren, and getting back. I did ranching, family ranching prior to this, and I have to say and be honest about it, the cattle have been a little neglected
Okay.
over the last 14 years, and Lord willing, we'll be able to spend more
So
time out in the country. And
were they saying moo moo boo boo?
well, they enjoy seeing me when I come around. Let me say that. But the ranch has grown up in weeds and weed satch that could
Oh
that
yes.
neglect, and it'll be refreshing to be able to get back out there and see the sunrise and the sunset and do some other
That'd be
things
nice.
like that. So,
What are some of the places you want to go to? Something that really sticks out?
well, Alaska is on the horizon, and we're going to get a taste of that in 2 weeks.
Oh, very nice.
And it's we'll see where that leads us, and then maybe not so extravagant after that, but just Texas has a wealth of places to go and things to do and see,
They do, yeah.
and getting up to Yellowstone and places like that.
Oh,
You
fantastic.
know, you the Ark, the and although it's not Lisa's example of a good vacation. I just back up into the east, just traveling through the mountain scenery, Tennessee and
Oh yeah.
Missouri and places like that.
Very nice,
It's
yeah.
attractive to me. But we have friends in Alabama and Mississippi and even Georgia that we'd like to just catch up and visit
Oh,
with
you ought to do that, yes.
before time gets away from us.
When is the when's the next election? What would be your well, I'll tell you what, I'll start over here with my question. When is your term in? When is your last day or days?
The term, uh, this current term will end on December the 31st of 2026.
Last day of the year.
Um, One of the reasons for making my announcement this early about not running was to give people in the community an opportunity to make their interest known, because November the 8th is the day that the period begins for people interested in running for elected office can turn in an application to have a place
I
on the
got you.
primary ballot. And that window of opportunity is November the 8th to like December the 8th. And then you really only have 90 days in order, as a public citizen or a voter, to vet the candidates that have filed.
Sure.
And that may not really be enough time to fill the needs of this office. And I don't want that to sound conceited, but there's a lot here than being
It's a lot. County judge job is very extensive.
very comprehensive. Here locally, you, chief budget officer, uh, judge of the juvenile delinquency matter,
Yeah.
judge over probate and guardianship matters, judge over misdemeanor court matters, and then by federal statute and state, also the emergency director leading the recovery effort and the preparation ahead of disasters and incidents. So there's a lot here to do.
When's the election?
March,
It's in March.
first Tuesday in March next year, and
Okay.
then that's the primary, of course.
Okay.
The general election will be then the first Tuesday in November.
Okay. About a year from this.
Mhm.
Okay. So there's still some time. Um, if make sure I'm understanding right. If your last day is the 31st of this year, who will fill
20,
it?
26. We're in 25 now.
Right.
Yeah.
So the last day of the year, the 31st of December. Can't think.
Next year.
Yeah. Then who will, from January 1 until the election in 26, who will fill in that gap?
No. You're
Or am I totally
no.
confused?
You kind of got it. The horse before the cart, right? Or the cart before the horse. The primary election will be next March.
Okay.
My the general election will be in November, and my last day in office will be the
I see what you're saying.
December 31st
I
following.
was getting like way down the road there,
Yeah,
off track.
right.
Okay, I got you. That actually makes sense.
Yes, it should.
Okay. Anything else you want to say, or
No, it's been a great ride here, and really, even though there are daily tasks, there are things that have taken 10 years to come to fruition and finish, and there are still things that are 5 years on my desk that
your
are
systems pays
undone,
off?
but it's waiting on other things to happen along the way. So it keeps you busy, keeps it interesting, and the most wonderful thing about it is meeting the people, listening to their needs, and finding a way to respond.
Ultimately,
Uh,
I think that's what the job entails. It
it's
helps
a
us
public
help the
servant job.
citizens.
You have to have a public servant's heart in order to really do this effectively.
Yes.
And one of the things I remarked on many times over the course of the last 14 years was when in 2010, I knew I had to meet 1,000 new people after declaring to run as a candidate up until the November general election. I knew I had to meet 1,000 new people I'd never met before in the county and convince half of them, all voters, of course,
Mm-hmm.
that I was the right candidate because I was running against Judge Prowsey, who had faithfully served here for 24 years.
Yes.
And no complaints against Judge Prowse. He had done well with what he had to work with. But I knew because of those entrenched relationships, I had to meet 1,000 new people and win them over, and I was effective in doing that. So had a good showing in the general election. But Trey, it has been 1,000 new people every year since then. And so,
I can imagine.
yeah, yeah, that's the remarkable part about it. And I knew, looking back, I pretty well knew all the hats that the county judge had to wear because I had, been a Republican Party operative here and an election judge. And I just wasn't aware of the sheer volume and the magnitude of the things that, and could not anticipate what they would be, but they came with the Eagle Ford Shale. And
Yes.
it's leveled off now, but that doesn't mean the mission's over. Got to find somebody that can come in here and and keep it productive and
We went to San Antonio, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks ago, and there's still activity down 87 West. You'll see gas flares and drilling rigs and pop up every once in a while.
I was at a coffee shop this morning in town. I frequent weekly, not every day, but weekly, just to catch up on what's really happening in the county. And the talk at the table this morning was that one of the friends of one of the friends that was there was now aware of that an oil company was coming in and going to drill 6 more wells on his property. And of course, that lights up a lot of eyes. There's a lot of opportunity there, and you know, I
Six
don't.
wells, he must have a good chunk of land.
Well, they can do 6 to 8 on one pad site. The pad sites are now up to 2 acres.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And so what they'll bring the big drilling rig in and they'll plant it and they'll drill a well. When that's fracked and completed and the Christmas tree is on it, they'll slide it over 20 feet and drill another hole.
I'm sure it'll be like different soil horizons, obviously.
Hmm.
Be it like different depths or
Well,
horizons
uh,
down there.
the fascinating thing about horizontal drilling in this, I learned in 2008 while I was taking a graduate class at TCU. This was prior to me even thinking about this. TCU offered a mini course uh, through its alumni association for people interested in getting into oil and gas leasing. And at the time, I was ending up a 25-year career in the life insurance business, and that intrigued me. So I went up there and took this course, uh, fully prepared to be able to come back in down here, hire on with a brokering agent or agency, and do oil and gas leasing that was going on here.
Sure.
But part of that training was to take us out to an active drilling rig in the Barnett Shale, and this was sitting on the edge of Lake Arlington in between Fort Worth and Dallas.
Yes.
And we got into this rig, and it had been the first rig that I had been on since like 1982 because I had a short uh, stint out in Midland, Odessa area in 1982 with a company that sold the drilling bits.
Okay.
And anyway, everything now is just computerized and very technical. And the 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 driller who was operating all the mechanisms was sitting in an easy chair like this with control sticks, just like a kid with a gamer, you know.
Okay.
And
Even I can do that.
and you could see all these grids on these screens, and he could tell you how far down the drill stem was and how far out the bit was because the technology went through the drill stem and was on this drill bit.
Is there any roughnecks anymore on the derrick floor attaching the pipe to
Oh
what
yes,
with those big
yeah. The
claw
the
things?
yes, they still do that, but everything is so technical now and digitized that this guy said he could uh, at the time 12 to 15,000 feet lateral length. He could put that drill bit within 6 inches of its target.
That's really amazing.
And then the instructor of the course added on to that was something that I still found very fascinating. He said he was a petroleum geologist and very skilled in this as well. And he said, not only does the driller have that power at his hands in the, on the doghouse floor, but he, as the geologist engineer, could be in a hotel room in San Diego
Yes.
with his laptop computer and
Yeah,
dial in and take control of the rig from out there.
you can.
It is just a fascinating to me, and the
Way
technologies.
back in the day, that never would have been imagined.
Yeah, yeah. But it's just fascinating what they can do to take that bit down and bend it and take it out 2 miles an hour like that.
Wow.
But anyway, it's all good. I love what I've done. It's been a real privilege, and I'm so very grateful to the public at large here that kept me in the office and
Well,
had the confidence in me.
you're a legend in what you do. So you've been at it for a while, quite a while. So that tells me right there that you were very much appreciated it very well to the citizens here. So
Well, it's not any fame that I sought for myself, but it was just you get in there, put the blinders on, and get to work,
a call you
and the fruits will come back.
had, they will. All right, perfect. I appreciate your time today.